Mhm. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna get started pretty soon. We're gonna be live. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Carmen. Welcome to another episode of Novio. If you all didn't know, this is a late night show. We pretty much promote everything love, sex, and relationships. And we're live every Wednesday at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Before we jump into this episode, we're going to be talking about sexual wellness with a very special guest, which I'm so happy to introduce. But I do want to give a huge shout out to our previous guest, Janine, who pretty much told us a lot of really interesting topics about signs when you are ready to be in a relationship, what you should expect when you're in a long distance relationship, and then also my favorite topic, cuddle season. So if that's a topic that you want to talk about or learn a little bit more, head to our link in my bio so you can listen to it, okay? But yeah, today we're going to be talking about sexual wellness. And we actually have Frances here, who is a sex tech entrepreneur who honestly created, I think, the best invention out here for everyone. And yes, give us a huge shout out. Hi, Frances. Welcome to the Ito Novio show.
Hey, Carmen. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about Awkward Essentials and how is that revolutionizing our sex lives?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Frances. I'm the founder and Captain Awkward at Awkward Essentials. We're a hygiene company that creates personal solutions for hella personal problems like after sex cleanup. So our flagship product is the Dripstick, and it's an after sex cleanup sponge. The way it works is that it's for those of you who are in long-term relationships, maybe married, maybe trying to get pregnant, definitely on birth control. So after your man does his thing and like finishes in there's like a lot of stuff in there. And so for me personally, it was I just didn't like it. I am someone who's very into like efficiency, and I Googled it so many times. I was like, okay, how do I clean up? Like, what should I do? And everyone was like, oh, just use a towel, use like a sacrificial t-shirt. And so
The
for
t-shirt.
me, I know, like, that crusty t-shirt that's in the corner, like we all
Yeah.
know what that t-shirt is. And so I just didn't like that feeling personally. And so every time after sex, I would like jump in the shower and I'd like use my finger and like try to get everything out just because I hate washing sheets. I don't know anyone who likes washing sheets. And then like the next day you're like at work and you like feel something and you're like, is that my period? And then you're like, no, it's the jizz from the night before. And you like run to the bathroom. And so like that scenario was just like so common. And for me, every time I looked for a solution, nothing really addressed what I thought was the issue, which is inside, right? Like everything is
Right.
inside, just like a tampon that's like soaking up your excess menstrual blood. It's a similar concept. So I invented the Dripstick. It's a super soft like medical grade sponge. There's a handle, and so after sex you slowly insert it, kind of twirl it around a little bit, remove, and it absorbs everything. And so you throw this away and you don't have any like the drips, the leaks, the smells. You're not leaking onto the sheets, into your underwear. There's just so much that comes with it.
No, it's true. Like, I feel like we don't really take the time to think. And I think we were talking about this off camera that sex does get messy. It's not like, the scene that we see in movies oftentimes. And like you mentioned, that people just like turn around and start cuddling. Like, what happened to everything in between?
I know. And you should always pee after sex. Like, I don't care if you're using Dripstick or not. If you've ever had a UTI, it is like the worst thing. Like, oh my God, it's awful. And so, like, regardless, you cannot turn over and cuddle. Like, you should pee. And so it's just movies and TV, the way they depict it is that's you're sweaty and there's a jizz puddle and all this stuff.
No, that's true. And I think this kind of goes off of like the previous episode. We were talking about cuddle season and about, right now a lot of people, and also because of quarantine, I feel like more people are having more sex. Even with the stay-at-home orders, I was reading this article that a lot of people are just having more sex, probably because of all the stress we're undergoing. But with, sex comes like responsibility and sexual wellness. So what made you want to do this specifically out of all the other types of like sex tech things that you could have invented? What made this specifically that you wanted to put out there?
I have had a lot of jobs, none of which were in sex tech or femtech or even like feminine health and hygiene. So the inspiration for this product came from my time as a baker. So I really
As a
love
baker?
baking. Yeah.
Wait, hold up. As a baker?
As a baker, I really love baking, almost went to culinary school. And so I think most of us have like a rubber spatula in our kitchen, right? Like when you're making a cake or like a batter, anything in a bowl, you use like a rubber spatula to get everything out of the bowl. So you can maybe see where this is going. So every time I would like use the rubber spatula in the bowl, I was like, in my head, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a rubber spatula for my vagina. Like, this would be great if I could just like get everything out. And so my background is not femtech or sex tech, but I am a big fan of skill stacking. So that's kind of
Mhm.
like taking skills and things that you know from other like parts of your life, maybe hobbies or jobs or things that you've seen, and then applying them to something else for like innovation. So for me personally, just cleaning up after sex was such an ordeal and I could not find a solution. And that's kind of why I created one. It wasn't really because I was like, I want to go into sex tech. I want to be a femtech founder. It was honestly because I couldn't find what I needed. And so that's why there needs to be more female founders out there too.
No, I think it's important, and I love this because I just recently like started to get into all the technology that goes behind the sex industry, because there is a lot of technology infused with sex, which I find super fascinating. But I've also noticed that a lot of the women that I relate to, when it comes to sex, are women of color, whether they're sex educators or people that are putting products out there, whether it's sex toys or lube and things like that. Like I connect with them a bit more. So do you feel like it's been the sex industry and the sex tech industry has been welcoming to you as a
Yeah.
woman of color?
It's incredibly kind. The Women of Sex Tech is actually a group. They're based in New York, but there's a bunch of members all over, and everyone is very kind because we all have the same challenges. Like we have challenges with stigma, with advertising, with fundraising. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have kind of like looked at me and been like, "Oh, like you have a sex product." Like there's still such a stigma to being in this industry. And I guess not only we're like beyond the pleasure industry. So there's like lube and vibrators and even like period products. I think those things are becoming a little bit more normalized, which is amazing. But we're
Right,
dealing
they
with
should be
like,
normalized.
yeah, because it happened. Everyone gets a period. Like it's such
Mhm.
a normal thing. And so like for us to talk about like this sticky, like completely not talked about thing as it relates to sex is almost like darker or like worse in it, right? Because it's just something people are not talking about. Like the only place I could find answers was like Yahoo Answers and like Reddit. And it was like these
Mhm.
anonymous people who are just like, oh, what do you guys do? Like,
Right. No, I think it's really important, and also I find it interesting too because well, you had to have pitched this product, right? And I think the way that you pitched it was just like, it's kind of like an applicator, and then you just like take everything out. Kind of like when you were pitching this, like, did you get any interesting responses? Were people maybe not taking the product seriously? Like, and
oh
then how
my
did you
God.
sell it for first timers?
So the first time I ever pitched this product, so I did an accelerator. It was called Grid 110. Amazing accelerator. It's in LA. And you go through like a pitch process. So the first time I ever pitched it, I like gathered data and statistics on like sex and like women. And I pitched it using like, numbers and facts. And it was like awful. Like half the room was just kind of like open mouth, like gaping, like so in shock that this girl was like up on in the front of the class, just like talking about jizz and cum and vaginas. And then the other half of the room was like laughing, but like nervously laughing. And so what happened is as I kept pitching it, I learned that the best way to talk about it was to just say, like, this is an issue that I have. Like, I have a
Mm,
husband and this is what happens and I don't like it. Like there's some people who don't care, who don't think it's an issue. There people say they like it, which is totally fine, like to each their own and like that's great. The product's not for them, but I found that really just saying like, okay, like I have a husband, this is what happens. I don't like it. This is why I invented it was really the best way to talk about it because if not, I think like a lot of people in the room just were uncomfortable or they felt offended or they felt like I was like accusing them of having sex or like getting came in, which is should be fine. I mean, someone
right.
like getting pregnant, like it's fine. But so that's kind of how it evolved. And then as I pitched to different investors, some were pretty responsive because I think with a lot of women's products, when you're pitching to investors, if it's like a male investor and they can't relate, so like a vibrator, it's a little bit harder. But men, like penises are the cause of this problem. So they like kind of know. So those
Right.
male investors, like they can relate. Like for the most part, most of them know it's happening, or if they're married or like have like a long-term partner, they understand, like, okay, yeah, like she's complained about this before. I know it's a thing. Um,
Hmm.
and then I've had some investors who are just like, why can't she just use a tampon? And then I'd have to talk about vaginal tearing and explain why.
Right. No, I think it's always important. I think when if you're the creator, if you like personally resonate with that product, and you also use the product, because I feel like for me specifically, like, I currently have like this friends with benefits, and it's like in that territory where you never know, it could get serious. But we've explored also like having unprotected sex. I mean, we both are adults and we both get tested and things like that. But when I was seeing the product, I was like, that really does come in handy, because if that were to happen, like I would want to definitely clean myself. And that's just me personally. Like, I know not everybody does that.
Mhm.
But also like just having like the towel, I feel like that just like spreads everything, and you don't want that. I'm like, I don't want to spread everything.
I know the towel is like it's such a classic like after sex item, but it still comes out. Like, you can't put a towel inside of you. I wouldn't put a towel inside of you, and so it's like there it's still inside, but, like, as you're saying, like, yes, like, absolutely, our target is people who are in long-term relationships or on birth control, they've gotten tested, like, we definitely try to make it very clear, like, this is not it's not it doesn't prevent pregnancy, it doesn't prevent STDs, like, you should still be safe. It's really a
Hmm.
convenience item, like a hygiene convenience item for those who are interested in it.
Yes, and that's the seller for everyone listening. Like, this does not prevent against STIs and things that you should still regularly get checked for, right? Because that's something that, as people that are having sex, we need to be responsible. So this is just an addition to the sex products that you already have. So that kind of like goes into my next topic. So you probably heard about dick appointments and getting ready. Do you have any rituals for, like, well, you're already married, so let's
I'm
just say you have
married,
things
so
in life.
I have an unlimited
Right.
dick in that room. So yeah, but I am aware of dick appointments, yes.
So, from your previous times or even now, as like in being in a committed relationship, do you have any tips and tricks for getting ready for a dick appointment? Whether it's sexual wellness or just something that you think is important for femmes to have before they go out and have fun.
I mean, I think kind of like you're saying, it starts with making sure you're being safe. So I mean, it's totally okay for girls to have condoms on them nowadays. Like, have one if that's your intended barrier to pregnancy, like totally fine. I think I mean shaving. I'm a shaver, so I like to shave everything and make sure that it's tidy down there. I think lube is your friend. I think lube gets a bad rep and people shouldn't shy away from it. Like there's no shame and no harm in like lube. I guess it depends on what kind of dick appointment it is. If it's like a regular one, it'd be a lot easier to like have a bottle of lube at his place or your place. But if it's like
Right.
a one-time dick appointment, I don't know about that. Like I feel like it's different, right? Like depending on the scenario.
No, that's true. I feel like now I'm at that stage in my frequent dick appointment where like my bag just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Like
Is it
before,
because you
like,
have stuff at his house? Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
Before I was like, okay, let me make sure I take a toothbrush, I take this, I take that. Now it's just like, okay, like chapstick, condoms, like gum.
Yeah, having stuff at their house is so nice. I mean, I feel like if it's like a one-off dick appointment and you don't know him, like you should honestly have like freaking toilet paper in your bag because you don't know, like, right? Like you don't know if he's gonna have toilet paper or like hand soap, like some of the basics. I feel like I'm not
Yes.
giving these men a lot of credit here, but like you just have to make sure, right? Like you want to like feel nice and feel clean regardless. That's kind of, I guess, where I come from. I'm more of a, I like to like feel clean and non-drippy or sticky.
Yes, and I think that's also why I was really interested in your product too, because I feel like you know, after sex cleanup and then just after sex rituals, not everyone does it, but like I know for me specifically, I always pee after. It's
Hmm.
just ingrained in me, like, okay, let me just pee. Like, if I'm not, you know, if I'm staying over, maybe I don't shower at his house, but when I get home, I take a shower, I make sure everything's good to go. Also, like recently, I think, I know not everyone has to do it, but I always take like feminine wipes with me too, just to put them in my like purse or something, because you never know. I feel like just the feeling of feeling fresh probably gives me peace of mind as well.
Hmm.
So with your product, where do you see this going? Specifically, you have one set product, but it's you said hygiene products. So does that mean that there's more to come?
Yeah, we definitely want to expand. And really, our goal is to create other products that are kind of sit in this weird crack of things that people don't talk about. Because there's no reason to not talk about it. I mean, sex is such a normal thing, like cleaning up after sex. Everyone who has sex does it. And so we really want to like sit in that space of like super awkward things that people don't talk about. But for the coming months and even year, our focus will be this dripstick because people don't know what it is. It's so crazy because even when I was first pitching the product, I would say like, oh, it's a sponge, it's on a handle, etc. People would be like, oh, so it's like a wipe. And I'm like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
not a wipe, it's a sponge on a handle. And so I think changing the way things have always been done is just, it takes time and education. There's a lot of education around our product just because basic biology is apparently a tough subject. We get a lot of comments from people who are like, "Oh, can I like pee everything out?" And I'm like, "No, it's like a different hole. Like you can't
Right.
do that." So, it's kind of it's going to be a semi-inclined uphill educational battle and like getting the product to market. But for the most part, like everyone who's tried it so far is like they understand how it works. Once you see it, you understand how it works.
Hmm.
Once you see us like defile a Twinkie on our website, you have a pretty good understanding of how it works.
Yeah, I think I saw that. So I'm definitely gonna incorporate that in this video.
Yeah, feel free.
You talked a little bit about, I guess, some positive feedback and then some negative feedback from people. I know before you had a name change, right?
Yeah, so the original name was Come and Gone. Um,
Mhm.
and I
Which
love
is
that
pretty
name.
simple. I think that was like, you know, come and gone.
Yeah, there's still a special place in my heart for Come and Gone. But the issue was that Come and Gone was the company and it was the product. And so it was like kind of confusing because I people were not saying like, oh, this is a Come and Gone. Like it wasn't didn't really make sense.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Like the company was Come and Gone, but then what is this? And so this didn't have a name because it's an invention. It's like it hasn't existed before. And so
Right.
that's kind of why we switch things to make everything easier for people to like say and spell and Google and just understand and be more straightforward.
Okay. So now Awkward Essentials is like the go-to name. And then the
That's the company
Dripstick,
name.
Dripstick is item number 1. So the first product.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, see that makes sense too. Also, like the whole awkward essentials, like these are things that you need in your life. So I do want to ask also, as a female founder, and especially like in the sex tech industry, do you see that maybe this product could be in like a Planned Parenthood, or do you see it's mostly something that people would buy and not so much be in like those kind of spaces?
So we're hoping, so it's a hygiene product. So our goal is to be in like retail, like regular retail, and then also in pharmacy because it's hygiene,
Mm,
it's cleanup. I think that the sex shops are really great for like pleasure products, which is actually very different. I know we're associated with sex, but it's not like fun. It's,
mm,
it's cleanup. And then as far as Planned Parenthood, we have had some anecdotal reviews from people who have seen different like health benefits, like reduction of yeast infections and stuff like that. But we personally haven't done the research and haven't had the capacity to do that research. So we can't make those claims. So with that being said, not yet.
okay. And then also for maybe people that might be skeptical, because people can buy the products now, right? Like if they
Mhm.
go on the website.
Yeah.
So what would you say for someone who maybe is on the fence of trying it out? What would be some of the things that you're like pitching to them? Like, hey, like you should try this.
I
Nothing to
mean,
lose.
if there's any specific questions, we're always available. We're on chat, we're on email. I'll probably respond to you. We get questions around like if you can pee everything out or if you should still pee. The answer is always yes, you should still always pee after sex. Um, Around what it's made out of. So it's a medical grade sponge. There's no additives. Like there's nothing in it. So unlike like a douche or something else, it can't really change anything because there's no additives and it
Mhm.
goes in after sex. I like to make that very clear because sometimes it's not understood. It goes in
Mhm.
after sex and you don't leave it in there. So that's why there is that handle to help you maneuver it in. And so you can take it out quickly. So we get questions about the difference between this and a tampon. So a
Right.
tampon is a super dense piece of cotton that's meant for like hours, right? Like 4 to 6 hours, I think. And
Mhm.
it's meant for menstrual blood. So I don't know if any of your listeners have tried using a tampon before. I have, and it gets really slimy because the viscosity is different and it's meant for an extended period of time. So you don't want to put anything in there that's too absorbent because then you can cause micro tears in your vaginal walls. So that's why they say like don't use a super tampon during a light day because then it's like dry. So
Right.
our product is like super porous, so it absorbs like quickly as opposed to like over a long period of time.
And when people buy the product, does it just come with one in each box, or do they get like three, or like can they buy like different packages?
Yeah, so we have a 10, a 20, and we have a 69. And our
A
69,
69?
yeah. Our 69 comes with like other cool stuff in it, and we rotate those items every quarter. So it's just kind of like something extra.
Okay, perfect. And then if our guests wanted to, find more information, where can they find Awkward Essentials? Like, what are the social handles?
So our website is awkwardessentials.com. Instagram handle is awkward essentials. Facebook page is awkward essentials. We have a private Facebook group called Awk Talk. I think you'd love it actually. And
Donate.
yeah, it's like it's a lot of girls, it's some really cool guys, and it's just like everyone is like completely open. And so people are like super comfortable. It's just like a space that you can ask things because I've found, and I think a lot of our customers have found, like once you put like jizz in your vagina, how to clean it out on the table, nothing is really off topic because that is like
Right.
such an intimate, weird thing. But it also kind of breaks the ice like really quickly because most of us have experienced it. We just never talk about it. So Awk Talk is our Facebook group. It's where just you can talk about all things awkward. And then on Twitter, we're Awk Essentials because Awkward Essentials was too long.
the things we have to do, right, for like Instagram and Twitter and
I
things
know.
like
We're also
that.
on TikTok, but I'm old, so not very good at it. But we're also Awkward Essentials.
So yeah, don't forget to follow Awkward Essentials on all of their social media pages. I believe it's on your website as well, right? Like probably if you
Mhm.
scroll all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much for coming to the show. I learned a lot specifically about the Dripstick and how its functions work and how they make like sex cleanup a lot easier, you know, because sometimes in the moment, you know, you don't want to take too much time. You just want to and chill. But yes, thank you so much. If you want more information about Awkward Essentials and the Dripstick, I'm going to put it down in the description below. Don't forget to like their products, buy their products. Low key, I'm probably going to buy a product because I'm starting to get into that space. But don't forget also, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Y Tu Novio, the late night show. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram as well. It's Carmen PR Girl. And thank you so much for joining us, Francis.
Thanks, Carmen.